Whale, your regular fix for movies and mayhem. This is episode 48, going deep with our special guest Emma, discussing important messages in movies, mental health, philosophy, and the importance of friendship. It's fine.
Welcome, guys. As you know, because Drew's done his thing, episode 48 is special. This is Special Thursdays with... Can you pronounce your name? Because I feel like I always get it wrong. Or you don't have to say your surname if you're feeling... You don't want to.
It's really hard to pronounce. It's Emma.
The other
She
part.
got you, man. Yes. Yes.
Is it
You're welcome.
Imama? So today we have Imama. And in celebration for Imama coming on, I have a special vinyl in the background. And I don't think, Drew, you'll know that one.
No, it just looks like somebody that set up one of those things to paint.
Yeah, it's a set of ladders. Yeah, it's a Billie Eilish's first album.
Ah, nice.
So me and Emma used to work together,
Nice.
and we share a common love of Billie Eilish. And we
She's
went
amazing,
to
though, man.
Billie
She
Eilish
is
in
absolutely incredible.
Manchester. What is it? Oh God, it's 2 summers ago now.
Yeah.
2 years ago. But we've got tickets for next year at the Co-op in Manchester, which is the biggest
nice.
arena in the UK.
We
That
also
was
went to her cinema screening of her London show. And it was amazing because it was full of like 16-year-olds and everyone was up at the screen dancing and jumping. And I was trying to convince Kev to come up to the screen and he wouldn't.
I did at the end.
You needed a
sort
few
of.
beers.
Well, there you go. That's film related. We literally, we went to Cineworld at the big screen and watched her concert, and it was weird because we're just sat there, and it was like after like half an hour, we're enjoying it and singing along, and then you glance around and it's just basically 12-year-old girls everywhere, and me and Emma, and it's like, and they're all jumping around dancing, but you can't jump at the front of the screen because you can't see the screen. Do you know what I mean? If you're at a live gig, you go close, you see close, but when it's at a cinema screen, you go close and you're looking up at
You can't
colours.
appreciate it. Yeah, you're like,
I was so surprised at the experience though, because in a way it did feel like a concert because everyone had that energy. I think it was about a year on since her gig, and it was one night only in some cinemas, I guess. So everyone was dressed up. It was great.
Sorry. You'd have the surround sound as well, which gives that kind of feeling that you're immersed, literally.
It was quality. It's something that was like I was definitely going to go to, but it just sounded like this could be really quite lame if it's not done well. But the visuals were incredible. The sound was incredible.
Yeah. Going back to the vinyl though, when you said it's ladders, you don't use ladders to paint a picture. I meant an easel or yeah. I mean, I don't know what kind of painting you're doing with like DIY ladders, but yeah, depends how big the canvas is.
I have no idea. That big, it's that size.
Yeah.
But I was saying before, we were chatting before, like I was saying that I don't know how I can't think of a non-innuendo way of saying that Drew and Emma individually in separate rooms at separate times enjoy going deep on conversations. And
that is the best. That is the best line in any episode. Welcome, Emma. That you're in the best episode now.
I genuinely don't think I've had a conversation with Emma that's lasted longer than 60 seconds that's not got a serious question in there at one point. But it's lovely.
Yeah, but we need people like Emma in this world. Like it makes conversations like relevant and important. Otherwise, it's all just like McDonald's kind of conversation, like fast food.
I think it puts you off guard sometimes as well, because you're having a beer and you're chatting to Emma about something silly, and then then you'll turn around and go, "What was your childhood like? You know, what was your biggest?
It's not that random though. Things come up.
What the fuck am I just phoned into? Samaritans. What's going on?
Wait,
James, this is Emma.
Sorry.
Hi, James.
What up?
She's listened to one of the episodes already, so she knows.
Oh, really? I apologise for that. Load of shit in it.
We can
There's the
talk
guy
about
wearing
that.
the merchandise.
Oh, let's not talk about it. God damn.
Emma, would you like to critique James's performance on the podcast?
Don't, because I'll just self-harm. There's a window, like, right there. I could just jump.
Don't do it.
I'm not sure if Emma's used to this sort of. We're just saying before you jumped on, Emma loves a proper conversation sometimes, like in like deep and meaningful type scenario.
Sick, so I just leave now. I'm just going to poke the little button.
But one thing to mention, and we can use it as a jumping off point to talk about other things, is that Emma convinced me. She was in Chester. She lives in Manchester now. I don't want to give your location away, but you came to the family live in Chester, and she came back to Chester, and we met for lunch the other week. And she told me about Inside Out 2, the Disney film, and said it was worth going to see. She gave a compelling argument, so I went to see it.
What did we watch this week? On Cinema Selection.
And I fully agree. But I think Emma should tell us her opinion.
Pretty sure Reef gave a compelling argument. You should go and see it. And you didn't listen to him, did you?
He's 5. His compelling argument is colours.
No.
Sorry, that was rude.
It was, wasn't it?
He's really intelligent, though. He is a smart kid.
Colours.
Bananas.
Sorry. Go on, Emma.
I'm glad.
What are your thoughts of it?
I'm glad you went to see it. I think when we started talking about it, I don't know if you were unsure if it was like a kids' film or just another Disney. But yeah, I don't go to the cinema often. I'm not a big film watcher, so it's quite funny when Kevin asked me to come on. But Inside Out 2, I went to see it twice in the cinema, like a couple days apart.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm studying psychotherapy at the moment, and it's so deep. I've heard that it's PhD level psychology explained for 5-year-olds. So it's a really accessible film, but in terms of
That's
how
why Kev loved it.
I understood most of it, yeah.
And it's amazing because you can take really small things that the characters say and dissect it, and there's so much hidden meaning that if you just like stop and think about any small part, you're like, oh, that makes sense with what I've experienced, and just the complexity of emotions. And I mean, I've had conversations with people who aren't very sort of emotionally aware or have built that sort of those skills.
I'm a poet, dude. I've got heart on my sleeves.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Yeah, so I've had conversations with people who aren't down that route, and they have sort of anger or happiness, and there's not much in between. But yeah, looking at emotions in sort of these 5 categories or more, since there are more characters in there, it's fascinating, and seeing how they interact with one another and the sense of self and the values.
I like it as when we had lunch together. It was a beautiful restaurant. You guys might have heard of it. It's called Grieg's. So we went to
Grieg's.
Yeah, we went to
Grieg's are good.
We went to
They have
Greg.
sausage rurales.
We went sausage rurales.
Meal deals.
I think I had vegan chicken. Yeah, it was lovely. We had pastry and Lucozade. It was fantastic.
High end.
But I love the things the things you're saying about it. The fact that it was a sort of film that not only kids could learn about what they're about to experience or what they're currently experiencing and it being rationalized for them, but also adults and parents being able to understand what their kids are going through, even though they've been through it themselves. It's a different world, and anxiety was never talked about 20 years ago when they were kids. It wasn't an emotion. I don't think they've even heard of the word. I didn't hear of the word till like 10 years ago being part of your life, So, and for the fact that everyone's got it to a degree, I think it was really important because...
I'm not crying. I've just tried these new hot, flamey fucking Jesus Christ. They're hot.
Yeah, don't put them in your eye, mate. You're supposed to put them in your mouth.
The reason you're crying is because you got cheesy Watson dust and you're rubbing your eyes with it.
They're so hot.
But it's okay if you cry as well.
Yeah,
It is,
okay.
but not for crisps.
James,
it
can
out.
you please cry?
Let it out.
Go on.
Well, I'm not putting any more in my mouth. They're bloody horrible.
Stick
put them
them
in your
straight
eye.
in your eyeballs. Yeah.
Oh, God.
But yeah, no, I genuinely thought, right, the thing as well, because I mentioned last week I saw Despicable Me 4, which is obviously another Pixar film, and it didn't do anything for me. It was just, it's a
You
kid's film
Nazi.
and the kids will love it. But Inside Out 2 there was nothing really funny. I didn't really laugh at anything, but it was like an action film for kids. But with some deep thoughts in there that rationalize things. I thought it was really, really. And Emma, you did not stay till the end, did you? You didn't see the bonus
I
extra.
don't think so. I stayed till quite late on because then at the end of the rolling credits, it says, "This is dedicated to our kids" or something like that. And I thought that was the end. Is it not?
No, there was a bit at the end. Remember in this scene, they go to this part. You know the premise of Inside Out, right? It's like little people inside the brain of a child and
Yeah,
operating.
your emotions, yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's one scene where they get thrown away because anxiety and envy and all the puberty emotions are taking over, and they chuck away the anger and joy and all the simple ones to the side.
The Anger Taylor-Joy.
Anger Taylor-Joy, and they get chucked in this vault. And in this vault, in the dark premise, there's like this big hulking, menacing thing, and it's called Deep Dark Secret. And they won't tell us what Deep Dark Secret is. It just goes away, and at the very, very end, it comes out and tells you the deep dark secret.
Ooh.
I want to know what it is.
But
Emma,
I won't tell you what it is.
now.
I'm not going to tell you what it is because the funny thing is, the deep dark secret comes out, and she goes, "Oh, what is it?" And he goes, "I did this," and she goes, "Oh, we've done worse than that. Remember that time we did the other thing?" And he went, and he has to go back in the vault again because he's got another secret to keep.
Oh,
So he said a bad thing, but Joy remembers an even worse thing they did. And he goes, scuttles back in.
It's interesting.
That's cool. I like that.
It was only like 5 seconds. It was the most.
Is that an end credit thing?
Yeah, like proper Marvel.
Marvel.
It was like I think I sat there for almost 10 minutes. It was ages, but
Oh,
no one else moved, and I was like googling post credit. Yeah, there is one. I'll wait.
so
Emma, have
good,
you
though.
seen Soul by Pixar?
Yes, I love that.
Is that was beautiful and profound as well, I thought.
Yeah,
On a really
and
deep level.
Drew, go
the
close
film
to your
that-
mic. Sorry, you're a bit quieter.
Oh, really? Sorry.
You're super quiet. It's sold it with the guy that falls down the manhole.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he swaps
you're
places with a cat, I think.
Yeah.
if I
Sorry,
remember
I like
correctly.
Luca.
I've not seen Soul, but carry on.
But yeah, no, sorry, please.
I was just going to say it's really interesting seeing a sort of conceptualization of an afterlife or of rebirth. It goes into that, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
it's explained in a really beautiful way. But yeah, what were you going to say?
Sorry to interrupt the show. Just a reminder to say we love and appreciate you all for listening to the podcast, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, follow, as this really helps us continue to progress and improve the content and keeps us making these fun episodes for you guys. Oh, we're also on these things called Instagram and TikTok. You can follow us there too, as we share short, funny reels on the reg that you can share with friends if you like. Now, back to the mayhem.
Do you not think Luca was done the same way, like as a coming out story? Which clearly it was.
Have you seen
Did anyone watch Luca?
Is
Come
that
on.
the mermaid?
Yeah.
No, what is he? He's not a mermaid.
He is kind of like a merman, but when he comes onto the thing, he's like realizing an actual thing with his best mate, like, and it's clearly like a coming out story.
Yeah, it's about friendship, isn't it?
It's a really cool story.
I haven't seen Luca.
They've
Great
done-
movie.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen Luca.
Well, that was the one I was telling you about, Emma, when I mentioned about emotions. There's a film called Turning Red.
Yeah.
Seen that.
Is that what she turns into the
Yeah, it's got that
Red thing.
panda.
Yeah, that's about girls becoming of age, isn't it? Obviously, clearly.
Yeah, but in where is it? It's Korea or China. Oh, God, I'm butchering.
Probably not Korea.
Lots
but
of
yeah, China maybe.
it could be Korea.
Turns to a red panda.
Just not
I think
North.
they're indigenous to China.
Is Soul
Are
the
they?
one where the little girl gets lost and those little thoughts monsters become
Drew,
really
you're really quiet. You sound like a hostage.
really?
Yeah.
But
That's
I
better.
haven't done anything to my sound.
I think it's
What's
just because you were
going
coming
on?
over here.
What?
You're getting really into your chat there.
Okay, fair. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
I'm
now.
in the yellow, man. Anyway,
Good.
with is that the one with the little girl that she has those kind of like thought monsters and they start to take over and she goes into a really dark place and gets consumed and they have to rescue her from her own dark thoughts.
No.
Anybody?
The overwhelming consensus there. No,
Is that-
you're watching a
No,
totally
I haven't
different
seen
film.
it.
Oh, you haven't seen Soul?
Oh, Soul. Sorry, I thought we were talking about the Red Panda one.
No, I haven't seen Red Panda. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm famous for
Certainly
going
right.
back to the same. Before we get interrupted, I go back to what we were talking about.
Yes. Go back to
Yeah.
Soul.
Yeah. Is that right? There's the little girl, the little blonde girl.
I've not seen Soul.
It's about jazz, isn't it? It's a
It's
jazz.
the jazz
like,
dude that like gets his big break, then ends up dying.
No,
Like, he gets his big break, he's super buzzing and falls on a bloody manhole.
I know that, but
Yes,
he
you're
has to
right though.
rescue-
In
he has to rescue a
the
little girl because
other life, yes, there's
Yeah.
a girl who's given up on
Yeah.
being reborn.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why I
Oh
mean
my
Soul
God, just
goes
looked
so
at the-
deep.
Sorry.
Because go on.
I was just saying I looked at the cast. It's Jamie Foxx, it's Tina Fey, and Graham Norton,
Wow.
There you go.
and
there you
Richard
go.
Ayoade.
But
That's
one of the most
odd mix.
powerful points that I liked about it is because I feel like in life, so many people, beyond just trying to exist and just breathe and enjoy every day you have while you're here, there's that pressure to be something. I need to be I need to be this. Do you know what I mean? So we're always trying to evolve sometimes beyond where we can or beyond our the expectations can sometimes be very daunting or overwhelming. And what I loved about it was even though he's a successful jazz pianist, it's actually about, yes, I said pianist, it's actually about his favorite moments when he thinks back on his life is when he's just on a bench and it's just the leaves falling off a tree and he's like, it's all the small subtleties in life that almost have more relevance than the really big scary things that we sometimes put ourselves through for the sake of careers or expectations or
Yeah, because at the end of the day, a lot of those things are just to prove that you're worth something to someone else. Like you hear a lot of Olympians or entrepreneurs who get to the stage that they always dreamed about and they were never as depressed as that day. And it's such a, it doesn't live up to the expectations because at the end of the day, you're the same person. Even if you've achieved these things, there's no fireworks, there's nothing else. You're still you. And some people don't like that. And for me, what really stood out from Soul was, in the other life or the other dimension, this dark place where there's lost souls.
Yeah, that's where the girl is. Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful. They're these huge dark monsters and they're sulking and they're in this victim mode and they're just walking around and you can't get through to them. They're hard shells. I guess the main character's trying to wake them up or trying to help them and they're just unhelpable.
Yeah.
And I know in my life I've come across people like that they're so lost in their own psyche that you try so hard to pull them out. Yeah. But I think back to that film and I'm like, oh, you're a lost soul.
Yeah. It was so powerful.
So hard.
I think these Pixar films that are coming out like that on that sort of level are really good because it's explaining things you don't know how to explain in a simple way, but not just for kids.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch that. I've literally, since you've been speaking, I've just added that on Disney. So
yeah, mate, Soul is so clever. Like it's such a beautiful concept, but also the idea of, because what hit me was it was like you sometimes have to meet people in their darkness. And I think that's one of the lines that they say in Soul. And I was like, that's so profound, because when so many people are like, but look at the sun and look at this, it's like, it doesn't matter to those people because they can't appreciate anything because they're so lost. They're so dark that you have to meet them where they are and get through that darkness together before you can pull them back into some sense of reality where they can appreciate things.
I think what's nice about, you know, especially the three of us have known each other for like 20 odd years, is that without going into detail, I feel like I've known all two of you in dark times and in good times and really horrible times as well. I think we've all had spates of that. And I think as well, when we're growing up, especially as, you know, Emma, I definitely think you have a point on this, but like as men going through tough times, it's very difficult to communicate that, especially in your 20s. I don't think we had the mental capacity to do that. You just keep going until you have a breakdown and you're violent towards someone that didn't need it, or you snap at something, or you break down. And I think we've probably all had an episode of that because something bad happened.
Or you have like a major panic attack and you think you're going to die. That's another.
My go-to was usually be violent, and I didn't want to be. It was usually because something upset me or someone pissed me off, and then I went out drinking, and the first person that gave me a funny look got it.
But that's interesting as well, because that's almost like an inner
really
storm.
Really weak as a man, by the way. That's not a positive thing.
They talk about inner storms where, and I read a really fascinating book on this as well, that you take so many problems and you kind of just drink up all these things, but you never deal with them. And it's building and building into this kind of like hurricane in a storm. And you could be in Sainsbury's and someone reaches for a piece of fruit and some other apples topple and hit you, and you just rage a year's worth of trauma, pain, and anguish at that poor person that's just tried to pick an apple and it's gone horribly wrong.
So Emma, when was the last time you punched someone in the face? Is what we're asking. Square in the jaw.
Right in the fruit. Right in the fruit door.
I think if I tried to punch something, it would hurt me and not the other way around. But yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, and that, you know, even if it's not physical violence, you can be really mean to yourself in that moment, or you can lash out and hurt a friend, you know, with your words. Your words are very powerful. And I hear what you're saying about the sort of feeling lost and not knowing how to communicate it. It can feel like a prison in your mind or something, and you just want to, I guess anger is an easy emotion to go to because it's so loud in your mind and in your body. It's like your thoughts can stop for a second if you're in that rage. And it's easier to feel nothing or to feel that where you kind of feel powerful for a moment than feeling the hurt and the pain or the fear. So I think it's a really common response.
We mentioned in the last episode briefly is that we grew up watching movies in the 80s and 90s where the men we looked up to in all these action films were, it was about violence and getting the girl, any means necessary. Whereas today, the films, like we're just talking about Twister and how lovely it is to see someone like Glenn Powell, who is clearly an attractive hulk of a man, not be the hero. The girl's the hero, and he doesn't grab her and kiss her at the end. That they barely even touch during the entire film, and it's all on her. She is the driving force in anything that was permitted or available to be anything, and it's barely not even a romance. It's only like hinted. It's positive for kids learning from that sort of thing on TV or in films, as opposed to what we grew up listening to, watching, which I still love. I'm never going to not love watching Commando or Terminator, but there's subtleties in there that I don't think children. I think me watching things like that, those films when I was like 8, 9, and 10, when I should have been 18, is not about kids shouldn't watch violence. It's more about kids should not be learning the adult lessons that are inappropriate. For that. But I love the fact that I love Emma's brain, because you could talk about anything. You could talk about something chaotic and she'll find something meaningful in that. You could talk about Die Hard and she'll talk about, how John McClane was struggling something and he came through at the end, as opposed to he's just badass and shot people. I like that.
No, but that's beautiful about having role models and the importance of having, just something healthy. Because I know what you mean about, and I think there's unfair expectations as well on men to be this perfect, strong, successful, just the perfect life, and the same for women as well. And I wonder where that even originated from. I don't know.
Yeah, poor us for being white and middle class and male. Oh, that's tough, isn't it?
There is that.
Fucking hell.
But there is valid pain as well, for what you said before about not knowing how to share emotions. Men oftentimes grow up with people saying, don't be a pussy, or boys don't cry, or stuff like that, and that's really unhelpful. Yeah. So there's both sides. Yes, there's privilege, and there's also valid pain.
And I think we're probably all better these days because the world is changing in a positive light with that side of things. But I think I'm probably personally, and maybe other people are, still stunted from your upbringing that you can do something, but something still feels awkward to do because it's not the way you're brought up.
But pussies are helpful because they give birth to people. Do you know what I mean? So
you've gone quiet again, Drew. I can hear you, but you're quiet.
Turn your gain up.
Turn your gain up.
They're helpful. I'll turn your gain up.
Well, that's the funny thing. You heard that phrase where,
how's that?
Grow a pair of balls, like to be tough. Mate, grow a vagina. You can kick that all day and it won't hurt. Your balls, flick them.
Don't kick vaginas. Don't do it.
Don't kick vaginas all day.
That is
just
the rule.
Flick a ball.
Flick a ball. But yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say now, actually. But yeah, no, it was to do, like you're saying about growing up. I think, interestingly, I think that's why I've actually got into poetry, because I kept so much back. And in a weird way, I guess I was like a closet poet in a way, because of how that was deemed as well. The idea of a man expressing emotion to a level where it gets people concerned. You're like, listen, this is just a story. This is either just a story or this is moments from my life that I'm trying to paint a picture to get an idea of. But it's crazy how that makes people so uncomfortable. And I said to somebody, I remember if a girl is on a bench and she's crying, lots of different people come over to her and they'll ask if she's okay. They'll ask if there's anyone they can call, or they'll give her like a handkerchief or something. But if a man is crying on a bench, people will like stay away, like he's like a bomb that's about to go off. There's a very strange way that society deals with men showing emotion. And also, it was interesting that Will Smith said as well, like as soon as celebrities show an aspect of emotion, it turns into a meme and they get the piss taken out of them. And it's this idea that we have to keep the mold and the frame of the iconic stature of man. And when you said, where does this come from? I was thinking this in history books. You've just got all of these stories that are based on man's success, which I think splits it down the middle, which means that women didn't even get a look in. So the misogyny is huge, but also
not before
men
like
can't
1920. No women were ever mentioned apart from Queen Victoria.
Exactly. But then also men can't live up to the expectations of the pedestal that history has put men upon. So you've got such an interesting paradox there. And that's where I think the mental health is in both sexes now, essentially.
Yeah. And I find that a lot of the pressures on both men and women turn people away from being human. I think being human is having a range of emotions. And it's interesting what you're saying about the park bench. I don't know if that would still be the case now. I would question it. I don't know, because
I hope not now. Yeah, but
yeah, I hope
it's
you're
still
right.
valid. I think if I saw a man crying, I'd like to think I'd go and say, "You're right, mate." But in reality, I'd probably think, "Ooh, weirdo," or something bizarre. Best not to poke the hornet's nest.
I'll tell you a quick story just off the back of that. Where I was here, like actually this was like a month or so ago, I saw a guy down down by the lakes, and he looked in a really like dark, strange place, and his bike was to one side, but he was kind of like he looked like he was really thinking deeply about not wanting to be here. It was a really strange kind of vibe, and I kind of sat next to him very briefly, and I just said, "Are you okay, man?" And I think he just dealing with some kind of conversation with somebody about something. He didn't want to go into too much detail, but he just said, "I'm all good, but thank you so much for like asking." Do you know what I mean? That the idea that if every person in the world could ask the question to a complete stranger, because at the end of the day, it's strangers that are going to save us in our everyday, because you're not always going to be around your family and friends. If something happens to you or there's a situation, it's normally a complete stranger in the world that will hopefully step in and help you.
And sometimes it's more
be
comfortable speaking to someone you don't know, because
that's why I think
otherwise it's
therapy is such a
embarrassing
powerful.
Yeah,
That's why therapy is such a powerful thing, because it doesn't have the connotations and these shameful attachments connected to family.
I think the strange thing about like us lot and other people, like, you know, we've all had the message, probably within this group, in fact, especially, but with other people as well, that, you know, especially like the pandemic, we forget how tough the pandemic was. Like when my position was, Sadie was self-employed, so she basically lost her job because she was visiting people's houses to do dog training and dog walking and all that sort of thing. So she had no job. She had to go do delivery driving. I was in property. No one was touching property for the beginning part of it. There was a boom afterwards, but at the beginning that no one was touching it. My job before me and Emma met in our job, I was doing something different, and I was in a position where my job was in jeopardy, and I had to go into delivery driving the weekends because my pay dropped because he couldn't afford to pay me a full wage. And I was doing, like, I hate making phone calls, and my job was you'd have to do some phone calls to a degree, but generally speaking, you'd be out and about meeting people, and then the other time you make a few phone calls. But because we couldn't go out and meet people, it was 100% phone calls. I had to make like 200 calls a day. I full on, and I don't say this lightly because I know people who have got it for real think it's really annoying when people say it, like but I was fully depressed. I was not happy.
No, I don't think you should ever think that you're a burden to say that, to be fair.
Thank you. But I want to jump out a window. I thought
it's different experience for everyone.
And that's the weird thing. We look back in the pandemic now and we go, oh, it's just a blip. It wasn't that big of a deal because everyone moved on. You know,
it was a big deal for a lot of people, though. From my experience, I was working, and we had Reef, and the week of the pandemic, he learned how to walk.
Reef would have been 1 year old then.
He just learnt to walk the first day of the pandemic. So I still had to go to work every day. His mum was obviously signed off because she worked in childcare. So it affects people different. Like, because I was going to work every day, 9 to 5. But then leaving her in the house alone with a 7 or 8-year-old child and a baby that just learns to walk, we stuck to the rules 100% for 3 months. Didn't see anyone. No one came around the house. None of our comfort blankets used to be nights away, friends round, blah, blah, blah. They were all taken away. So the stress on that over the space of like 3 to 4 months of like me coming home every day being like to a stressed person, so I get that. It was rough.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I heard the domestic violence as well, because people used to be able to escape their partners to go to the work, to go somewhere, to go to a library, but because they couldn't escape because of the virus, they were actually trapped inside that toxic environment.
The thing is, people's comfort blankets were taken away.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I was in quite a toxic relationship, and my partner was either angry or happy. And how he coped with his anger was going to the gym, and he couldn't do that anymore. And I guess what we're all pointing at is the lack of community, or the complete loss of community, because no one could see anyone anymore. You couldn't go for a walk, you couldn't see family. And it's that support system that we all need. And I think even in a world outside of a pandemic, there is still a lack of community. And it's beautiful, Drew, your story before about you asking someone if they're okay, and just the power that that can have. And like, we call them strangers, but once upon a time, like, the network around you was your community, and there was a lot more connections. You had a lot more, I think there's also a problem of dumping all the responsibility of an entire community just on one person, which is your partner, or just one friend. And that is a lot of responsibility for one person to carry. So I feel like, yeah, it's good to expand your communities, your circles, to have a range of people you can go to at any one time. But yeah, the pandemic was definitely a challenging time for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's mad. Like, I say to Drew, like me and Mike's my best mate. A couple of months ago, we were like, should we start playing golf? Like, for no reason. We didn't care about golf. We just went up to some random golf course. You spend 2 hours just walking around, mainly finding balls in the bushes. But you just be chatting. And like, it was good for your mental health. Like, get out in the fresh air, walk around probably a few kilometers. We're rubbish at it, but it's such a good thing to do, like, mentally, just to get out in the outdoors, get outside.
You're being serious now, and
do something you think like,
struggling
oh,
not
I
to
could
take a
probably
piss
do
off my
better at
son.
this, and then just like, just enjoy each other's company. It's really cool.
Well, you're
Well, I was
forgetting
gonna say-
like the main thing, like us three starting this podcast. That like this is fun, but ultimately,
Is it?
but ultimately, I moved area. I don't have many friends where I am. I don't have many people here. I came from
You
Andover.
didn't have many friends where you work, Kev. Let's be honest about the whole
Shut your
situation.
face, you penis.
You left because you didn't have any friends.
In Andover, there was like 100 of us. There was like 10 friendship groups of 20 of us. There was like,
Yeah, there still is. It's
I
pretty
hung
cool.
out with Drew and 10 of his mates, and then I hung out with James and 10 of his mates, and then everyone came to my house at one point, and then I moved to London and I made a new set of friends, and then I abandoned London and I felt like I had no one, and I've only got, apart from Emma, when I moved to Chester, I only met like one guy that I'm friends with, that we go to metal gigs with and go to the cinema with. Other than that, I don't have anyone in Chester I can literally just call and go and hang out with. I've got one friend.
We lived in a weird environment though back in the day where you could just go to any music festival, whether it be Reading, Download, Glastonbury, and you would see people and were friends with.
Every time.
Or they were playing, or they were on the live stage, the main stage, or something
That's what you
crazy.
said.
Like.
We'd go on holiday to a different country and we'd meet someone from our hometown.
Oh, can you remember that, Drew? We went to Andorra once, right? Me, Kev, and a bunch of others went to Andorra, and we were walking towards a ski slope one day, and some guy was like shouting my name, and I was like, "Oh, is it a guy we met maybe in a bar last night or something?" And I gave him my name. And it was a guy I went to college with like 4 years previous, and I had like a ski mask and like one of these things to cover your face. I was like, "What are the chances of that?"
He does have a dickhead walk, though. You can spot him a mile away.
Who, me?
Yeah.
I do at the moment because my foot is broken, so I definitely walk like John Wayne at the moment.
Well, I was going to say,
hopefully the X-rays come back pretty good.
Do you remember, like, when we were younger, though, you'd knock on your friends' houses,
and run away?
Well, no, that's knock down ginger, but yeah, if they're your friends. But you'd knock on your mates' houses, and you'd be greeted by the parents. They'd invite you in for like a bite to eat or a little drink, a lemonade if it's like hot in the summer, or you'd call, or if there was like a partner in your life, you'd call up the girl or the guy, and you'd have to speak to the parents first, and it created such a wonderful kind of fun but like awkward, community.
I love speaking to
mine was more like you go to knock on your friends, they'd be like, they're not there, and you just go home. Whereas nowadays you message them and be like, where are you?
Walked half an hour to get there.
But that's the other thing I was going to say. You could never
20p in a phone box.
You'd turn up though. You'd be like, dude, I'll meet you in the park at 6 o'clock, right? And you couldn't be late. You couldn't text them and go, can't be asked. Like, you'd actually meet. You used to meet. You couldn't turn
that was your
friends
Uncle
down.
Simon, wasn't it, that used to message you that? Wasn't your Uncle Simon used to be like, meet me in the park? Didn't his house burn down?
What?
Talking about perverts and pedos.
Oh, okay, fair. Of course he is.
But if
but
you couldn't be arsed, you had to go there. You had to travel all the way there and go, I can't be arsed, and then go home again because you had to go all the way home. So you had to be arsed to not be arsed. But I love the fact that we're talking about this and we sound like a bunch of old men because Emma's definitely a different generation because she would have Snapchatted or some whatever the phrase.
No, don't insult me, Kev.
Come on.
Do you remember Pogs? Pogs and Slammers?
What?
Pogs and
Pogs.
Slammers.
Do you know what
I got some Pogs?
And you play it in the streets.
Emma's looking blank. Do you know what a Pog?
I don't know what this is.
Now I feel like Grandad Drew.
No, because I lived in Italy when I was young.
Oh, okay.
So different culture.
Italians don't have fun.
I want you to look up Pogs and Slammers for your homework.
Connection.
Okay.
James supports Italy. He's got all the Italy kits.
Oh yeah, get your Italy kit.
Like in the World Cup, he didn't support England. He supported Italy.
Okay.
Do you
any reason
treacherous
why?
little bastard?
Is there any reason, James, or are they just a better looking team?
I've got several, but I'm going to pull one out right now. Bosh.
Great. What's the reason, James? What's the story?
I was never into football when I was a kid, and the first ever football match or tournament I saw, I lived in Germany, was at a Italian ice cream parlour, and they were getting really into football. I was like, this seems fun. I was probably like 9 or 10 or something, and got really into it. And I think it was USA 94 or something. And got really into it and supported them ever since because they were my second sporting love.
Lovely.
Interesting.
What's your second? LA Lakers.
First, Kev.
First, sorry.
First is the Lakers. Let's not be silly.
Because you've got a massive connection to LA and basketball. Because James is, you might not be able to tell him, he's 6'7". Genuinely, he's 6'7".
I'm 3'2" and white, but no, the Lakers are my first love. Yeah,
you can't tell because we're on computers, but he's 6'7".
Yeah, the Lakers are my first.
If I do that,
they always will be.
I believed it for a second, Kev, but now I'm like, I don't believe.
No, he's not. He's not.
Okay.
No, I'm a midget, but I love basketball. Yeah, that's my first love.
James, how tall are you? Are you? I've got a feeling you're the same height as me, or
5'10".
Yeah, ditto.
Average.
I think I'm 5. Am I 5? I'm 5'10".
I think you're 5'9", Drew. Just to.
No.
Yeah, I think you're 5'9.5", mate.
I'm 5'10", bro.
So here's Drew.
Hench.
Emma, what was the last film you watched that wasn't Inside Out 2 or Pixar?
Oh my god, I watched an awful film.
Emmanuel in Space.
Oh, I'm excited about this. Which one? What was it?
Oh my god, it was a random one on, I think it was Netflix maybe, or Prime. It was called I Give It a Year. Have you heard of it?
Yeah,
it's a comedy, isn't it?
Thingy from The Office.
Rafe Spall, isn't it?
Yes. Rafe Spall, Rose Byrne, and Stephen Merchant.
They call it a rom-com, don't they?
Yeah.
I see. So as I said, I don't watch films usually, and mostly it's because I feel like, yes, it's about a divorce or marriage, isn't it?
Let's try and show James. But
yes. Okay,
how many times did you laugh, Emma? How many times in that 19 minutes?
Anna Faris is in it.
The overarching emotion was cringe, so I think Inside Out 3 might come out with that.
Yeah,
brilliant.
It's not a good film.
Yeah, but it was really interesting to see the break of a relationship by lack of effort and intentionality in the relationship. That was quite interesting because it was as if they just like skimmed over the fact that they stopped talking, they stopped spending quality time together, they stopped being curious about one another, and just
Sounds
see
like
how.
my life in COVID. If I'm honest.
Was that the case?
Well,
yeah.
I was going to say what was the last stupid film you watched, but that sounds like that encapsulates both those answers as well. But
you're going to cry in the corner at a moment.
Okay, I watched.
You're gonna have a prank.
I watched 2 films last week, right? That wasn't cinema related. Did you say Anne Frank? What are you Anne Franking about?
No, I said, is he gonna have a crank?
James is gagged.
That's your dick. I spit my drink out.
Sorry, Emma. Like we can be serious, but
we're inappropriate
James just
sometimes.
loves.
I wasn't trying to be serious.
James loves an Anne Frank joke.
No, I said, is he going to have a crank?
Oh, I thought you said
True. This is PG related. Jesus.
Oh,
Not
James,
PG
James,
related.
you'll like this. I say this and I can't remember the joke. I'm going to start talking if I forget it.
Brilliant.
Great way to start a joke. I can't remember the joke, but here we go.
There was a comedian on one of the mobile phone visual things.
Even better. There was some bloke on something.
And he goes, the funny thing about Madeleine McCann, you know why it was so interesting to the public? Alliteration. Madeleine McCann. If it was Beatrice Dumbledore, no one would have given a shit. But because it was Madeleine McCann, everyone was on board.
I hate to say, if it was Beatrice Dumbledore, I'd have been booking my flights to Portugal immediately
didn't say
with a
Beatrice
fucking
Dumbledore.
wizard's
I don't know why that came to me.
They would have.
Even worse. It was
I'd have
like
been abracadabra, motherfuckers.
Yeah, absolutely.
James has been looking for Madeleine McCann for over a decade.
I haven't. I've been finding Where's Wally on page 9 of the Where's Wally in Hollywood book for longer than that.
That's the kind of stuff that's going to get us shut down, kids.
That's a great book, by the way. Still can't find the little shit. It's really annoying.
Is that the last book you read? Is there any words in Where's Wally? Apart from the title.
Just pictures, man.
No.
It's not like Google Maps, so you have to find him.
Google Maps.
I was trying to find Drew's book, but my mum was the last person that read it. I don't know where she put it.
They make it really hard, to be fair. Are you trying to advertise?
Don't have your book to hand anymore, Drew. Sorry.
I can go and get it on the shelf, but I can't be bothered. Oh, there it is. Of course, Drew has it to hand.
What is it?
That's Drew's book. Drew is an author.
Oh, tell me about it.
He's a poet.
I normally have it to hand.
Oh, it's poetry. Lovely.
Can you tell Emma a little bit about it so that I can have a wee and not feel like you won't talk?
It's really anti-Semitic, and I don't agree with it. But
Drew, tell her about your book. I'll be one.
What does anti-Semitic mean? What do you mean, God? Explain.
For real, just tell her about your book.
That's far too intelligent for me.
It's actually really good. It's a really good book.
So, interestingly, when we were saying all of these crazy things that happened during COVID and lockdown, that's James and I at the O2.
It's me and you at the O2 VIP, Drew.
Having a lovely time. Lovely time.
Aww.
It was really nice, actually. But yeah, what I thought, like, when you talk about try and find the good in things or the silver lining, right? Because obviously there was many horrendous things to COVID and lockdown, and the fact that people died, the fact that people couldn't go to funerals. It was weird because we were invited to a virtual funeral, which was so bizarre and so surreal, but also very touching.
A virtual funeral?
Yeah. It was
in like a virtual funeral.
No, not quite like that. I mean, maybe they'll be like that in the future, but it was like you got a link to it was like a screen where they were playing images of the person that passed away, and then people were uploading videos of them saying, you know, how they felt about the person. Like, you know, like a funeral, people would get up on a stand and they'd express things, you know, about the person that they've sadly had to say goodbye to. Yeah. So it was like those, but they were pre-recorded. But yeah, to try and find a good thing, because I had COVID, I had Delta, and Sarah was the posh one, and Sarah was looking at things on the news and seeing that people were dying, and she was trying to stay calm for my sake. But when things took a turn and it started to affect my lungs and my breathing, I literally thought, I was like, this is going to be the end. Like, I'm not gonna make it. Like, and that was quite a psychological, traumatic damage that it really did to me and to my partner.
Wow.
But when I did survive, it made me think I want to do something that has meaning, that means something beyond just, you know, making a living or making money or just doing things like that. And I thought maybe I could like paint pictures of those difficult things that people don't necessarily know how to like explain, basically. So when I thought through poetry, And I thought, now I have the time to do this because I never did before. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, that I was kind of like a closet poet, like, because I felt very shameful of being a man that's connected to emotions or using words to express things or paint pictures, you know, in certain details that people wouldn't feel comfortable with, or they'd be like, I'm worried about you. Do I need to call someone and send you to a special place where they wrap up your arms and there's bouncy walls? And I was like, no, I don't need to go to an asylum. Like, I'm just expressing myself. And some of the things in that book aren't even about me. They're just things that I heard about relationships from friends or people things I've seen on TV or heard in the streets in London. But yeah, I just wrote poetry like for a whole year, maybe even 2 years. And something just kept saying, just keep writing. And then all those ideas and stories and poems, I then thought, I want to kind of turn this into something. And then I turned it into a book, which is now out there, and Waterstones and Amazon and places like that, which is incredible. Like, it feels really amazing to have that. But I think the most important thing is the moment when people reached out to me in private messages and they explained how this book helped them because they were going through some things, but they felt strange and they felt like they were wrong, or they were inside out in the world because it didn't make sense to them or how people would treat them. But then when they read what I'd written, they were like, this is how I feel. This is clarity. And I've showed it. And they said they've shown it to other people and gone, this is what I was like last month or last week, or this is what that person was going through. And the idea to paint a picture, because one of the lines I had, it's not in this book, it's in a spoken word album I released as well, because I wanted to do something to do with music. And it was, were we given these pains or mental health? What was it? As we are the ones that can express oneself, helping others to better prepare themselves when the demons come knocking. So it's the idea that maybe the traumatic things that I've experienced has allowed me to use my pen to give a picture of those really difficult things that people can't always put into words.
You're always good with your words, Drew. Remember when you used to do like MCing and stuff as well?
Yeah, man.
With
the
DJ Slips.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Slips. Yeah, man. And that's kind of why I've been trying to merge the two, because I love hip hop and I love MCing and rapping and all these things, and that's why I probably wanted to do the spoken word album, so I could speed up the wordplay and the repetition and the metaphors and the analogies, but it's still connected to mental health and kind of like men's mental health in particular, because obviously I'm a man, but I lost a few people to suicide. And well, Kevin and I had a good friend of ours that I won't mention the name, but he was going through some very difficult things, and he was testing the boundaries of his own, mortality, shall we say, and that was a really difficult time for Kev and I. And maybe that is also something subliminally planted in the back of my head when I was writing these things, because I wanted to break the barriers on stigmas.
That was horrible. And I think the worst thing about that is when he recovered. Well, he never recovered in our existence before he moved. But every time he recovered from an incident, he'd always feel like he burdened you. And I'm like, mate, you're not burdening me. Just get better, and I'm here. Call me or Drew before it gets to that stage.
Yeah, for sure.
He didn't. It took him a long time to get used to doing that.
It's so powerful, and it's sort of what you're talking about, Drew, is so beautiful. It's about being seen, or helping people feel seen, and what they're going through that they can't express. And related to this topic, that I think it happens to more people than we realize, and people just aren't open about it. They're ashamed of it. But we were talking before about Billie Eilish, and she has a really powerful song about this. It's called The 30th. And I recommend it to anyone. There's just this incredible crescendo that, like, I showed it to my younger sibling, and we were just like, we both looked at each other like, oh my God, like, because it crescendos and then it just stops. And, talking about this.
That's when she talks about that car crash, isn't it? Like, as well, like.
Well, it's about a friend who called Billie
Yes.
And then she has to run to the hospital to see her, and she sees this friend in a hospital bed, and I interpret it as it's around a suicide attempt.
Right.
And it's about Billy just looking at her in the hospital bed saying, you're beautiful, like, you know, and it's just about love and
Yeah.
friendship, but it's about how those experiences stay with you even afterwards, and you can't forget these things happening.
Well,
this
of
is
that. Sorry.
sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say about the butterfly. It was one of the most powerful things that I ever heard, because for two reasons. One, the metamorphosis stage is almost the equivalent to going through trauma for us, because you're in a dark place. You're like, that's the cocoon thing. But when you start to understand the lessons from it and you grow from those wounds and scars, you can then find colors and a strength to you know lift yourself and take off and really find the beauty in things. But the other thing to do with a butterfly is a butterfly never knows how beautiful it is, right? So it never sees the colors that catch our eyes and stop when we stop in awe and wonder. And someone said that about, use this for people that don't think they're enough in this world. It's like, you can't see the beautiful patterns that you leave behind, the way that you affect people. You just don't think you're making a difference, but you are, just because it's not measured in likes, or that you're not viral, and that's the other dangerous thing about social media and things like that you don't feel enough, because everything is quantified in numbers. But it's like your circle, like you said, in the community, or what you do, or even helping that old person along the street, or playing chess with that elderly man who's in the last stages of his life. You are making such an impact, and such you play such a vital role in life. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. And I think what you're saying in that song is the fact that she can see the beauty in another soul that doesn't think they should be here. And like that is like so powerful, and so sad when people don't want to be here because they don't feel loved, or they don't feel seen, like you said.
Yeah, and there's also I love that analogy of the butterfly, and there's also, I've heard one about the moon, when you see a full moon in the sky and you're looking at it in awe, and you think that's the most beautiful, and you get out your phone and you try and take a photo, and no photo will ever do it justice. And you can look at the photo and say, oh, it's not that good, but like, as that's the same as people, right? We see ourselves represented in a job or in a photo or whatever it may be, but we're so much more beautiful than just that thing. And it's as well, what you're saying about social media is so important, because social media is really toxic, but equally going back to having good influences, or good people that you can look up to. And in a way, you guys doing this podcast and being so open and vulnerable and talking about these things, you don't know who's going to come across and see it and how it might help them. So it's just wonderful. And I work in the social media space, and social media is a toxic place. There's a lot of comparison, there's a lot of unrealistic standards, but I think it's really important to push wellness initiatives and mental health and just positive influences, because you just don't know who really needs to hear what you have to say. And it's linking the two. Yeah, it's just great, even just to have role models like you guys, like men, talking about really important things that everyone's going through, even if other people aren't talking about it.
Well, that's it, because you're talking about social media and marketing, but because you've got like a background and an interest in psychology and therapy and philosophy and Buddhism, that's infiltrating how you do your social media and how you relate to people and stuff like that as well. And I always feel that you're a very calming, introspective, interesting person whenever I chat to you. It's always a joy hanging out with you, because you're not just a person I've met. There's a further level to you that makes you much more interesting than the other 10 people I met at the same time as you. That sounds derogatory to other people. I like lots of
the other
people.
9 Emmas.
But do you know what I mean? Like, there's certain people that pop into your life, and me and Emma only worked together. Technically, you didn't You didn't even stay a full year from when I started, did you?
Around that.
Maybe a year-ish or some of that.
Mm.
And I've been there for a few years now. But you're the only one from that position that I would hang out with socially that's not a work event. So I think there's something to that you bring a lot more gravitas with your personality.
I'll bring something up. So if you go on the mental health register at the moment, you're expected to wait maybe 6 to 12 months for help.
What, for like a conversation or for a meeting?
That's a fact, yeah. A conversation.
What, just a phone call?
So, yeah, just a phone call.
That's not good.
IAPS is a thing. And Emma might know what IAPS is.
Mm-hmm.
IAAPTS.
What is it?
That is the thing where they call you and they deal with your mental health. So when I learned this, that the waiting list was up to a year, I took my time to navigate myself and learn about mental health and be that barrier. Like, so if someone needs it, I was there. Like, none of that crap, like, wait a year. Bullshit, no. And the things I learned were horrifying. But it enabled me to notice things and tweak things and see when shit was going down and hopefully help people go forward. But you can't rely on making a phone call. Like, you've got to take your time and know what's going on with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't rely, because it's just not there. They've got to wait months or years, and that months or years ain't cool.
Well, that's one of the things.
It could be days or hours. You've got to notice these things, and it's worth I spent hundreds of hours. I could reel off facts about every single mental illness you could even imagine, like OCD. Like, do you know what OCD is? Just for example, do you know what it is?
Well, obsessive compulsive
it's
disorder.
Obsessive compulsive.
But what does that mean?
It takes over your
Well,
life.
it's the idea.
Yeah, sorry, Drew.
I was going to say it's the idea that I need to turn the light on 54 times every morning, otherwise I think family members are going to get killed.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's fantastic for knowing that, because so many people throw it around being like, oh, my pen's out of order, I'm OCD, or it's like a throwaway term, which is why the program Friends wouldn't be allowed now, because they make a mockery of Monica having OCD. They're like, oh, I've got to pull my socks up, I'm so OCD.
She's just a clean freak.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
but also
it's a debilitating illness.
The abuse that she
apparently increased the suicide rate by 10%.
Her mum as well.
By 10 times, sorry. But people like throw it away. And it's like, it's not cool. Like, you can't rely on medical care. And if you have a cool friend base, right? And it's up to you to take them hours to learn everything you can, whether it be about mental health, illness, like prosperity, like being better, like money management, I don't know, investment, whatever. Like, those are the things you need to be learning about and tell your friends.
Yeah, and check up on your friends, especially the ones who seem the happiest and seem the most jokey, because you really don't know what's going on. And I'm thinking as well, if there is anyone listening to the podcast who's going through something, I don't know if you guys can leave some helpline numbers in the show notes.
Yeah, 100%.
Because
Mind and over mind.
Samaritans
and there are a lot of charities who again aren't great with waiting times. There's a surplus of demand to the supply, but I know of a charity called Shout, which is text-based helpline. Samaritans, you might know some more, James, but that's a good top. And it's also, I think, important to know that you're not
also
alone.
quickly just throwing out there, boys do get happy because my Peaks Express order has just come on. Woo!
Yay! The simple pleasures in life. But it can feel isolating, but everyone goes through something similar.
Everyone just needs to know that, like, you're not weak, to show weakness. It's
Yeah.
life.
Well, it's straight. That's the irony, isn't it? It's strong to show weakness, especially as a man of our age group that were born in the 80s. If you can say, message a mate and say, I'm struggling.
Look, dude, the way I see things, I tell people life's like a battery. Every negative is a positive. There's a negative, there's a positive. Regardless of what it is, it might be the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your life, but something positive has happened because of it.
Can we make a t-shirt, boys?
There's a beautiful there's a beautiful quote that it says that I can't remember who came up with this, but they said we need to break in order to let the light through. Which I thought was so beautiful.
It's always the same. Every time you go through something bad as well, there's always a positive. And I'm talking extremes. If you go to,
there is, because I extreme diarrhea the other day, and the positive was Kleenex got a bloody good outcome from it because I bought loads.
And did you lose a bit of weight as well?
I did actually, yeah. My stomach went down. I got like a 1-pack. I was like keg to 1-pack. Bosh!
Forced you to clean the toilet for the first time as well.
And no, I left. It was in Tesco's.
Dynamite.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
it was like a Damien Hirst. It was like a Damien Hirst piece. I just left.
I mean,
I've entered it into a turn of prize.
Tesco Express.
Yeah, you said it's a good. You said it's a good.
No, I've entered it into the turn of prize. It's like a Damien Hirst piece, like Pebble Dash, the whole thing.
James $1 million prize.
That's
why
if
you don't see me next week, so I want to turn a prize.
You got to get there fast.
That stuff.
Jesus.
So let's get back to the normal side of things, which is fun and happy.
Go on then.
So Emma, how do you know Kev? Bad luck or just what?
Holy crop, Batman! Oh no! We're out of time on this episode. So join us for the rest of our chat tomorrow on Rage Whale.